Hi, welcome to this practice from One Tree Yoga. This is a practice to strengthen the back of the body and move into strong back bends. If you have access to yoga props, grab them. I have 2 blocks, a strap, and a blanket prepared. If you don't have props, I will give modifications when I use a prop. So to begin, you're going to come to a comfortable seated position. I'm going to sit cross-legged on a blanket. So it's a good idea to prop your hips up onto something when you're seated. It's just more accessible for your hips and your lower back. Find a way to sit that's comfortable for you. Rest your hands on your thighs and close your eyes. Take just a moment to shift your attention from whatever you were doing prior to this to your internal space of body, breath, feelings, and nervous system. See if you can just quickly sort of globally assess how you're doing at this current juncture. And then let's start to move into a little bit deeper breath, a little fuller breath expression. Feel your body expand and contract with your breath. Let's take one more breath here. And then you can blink your eyes open. We'll start with a simple twist to the right. So you can take your right hand behind you, cross the midline with your left hand to your outer right knee, and start to pull your rib cage from the left to the right. Twists unwind over time, so don't feel like you're going to go to your deepest point first thing and hold there. You have to allow for organic opening and space. And continue to draw the left side toward the right side. You can tack your right shoulder back a little bit. And take a couple more breaths. And then release and come back through the center. Pause for just a moment, reset in the center. And then we'll twist to the left, take your left fingertips behind you, cross the midline with your right hand, and start your twist on the left. Now the second side of twisting takes a little more time, I think, to unwind as you've been deeply twisting the other direction for several breaths. So again, give it time, give it breath, and allow it to unfold. Right side draws toward the left side, tack your left shoulder back and breathe. Let's use an inhale breath to release back to the center. One more move here. Interlace your hands behind you. Keep your elbows bent and see if you can interlace all the way down to the webbing. And then put your knuckles right onto the back of your sacrum. So it'll look like this. Then draw your elbows more together behind you to spread out through your collarbones. Lift up through the crown of your head, so think long spine. And then without leaning forward, begin to straighten your arms. Squeeze the heels of your hands together. And any amount, lift the pinky side edge of your hands up. Breathe. And release. From here, you can make your way to lie on your back. Clear your mat and lie down with your knees bent. You can have your hands just comfortably by your sides. We're gonna warm up the pelvis by rocking the pelvis front to back. So with your next inhale breath, you're gonna tip your pelvis away from your face to create a low back bend. Your middle and lower back arches up off the floor. And then as you exhale, you do the opposite direction. So scoop your pubic bone towards your face, round your tailbone in, like your tailbone could point up towards your navel. Inhale, tip pelvis forward, and create a back bend in your mid to low back. And exhale, tuck, scoop, tailbone in, pubic bone towards your face. Couple more just like that. See, feel, sense how your body muscularizes around this action, how accessible it is, how it feels to move in conjunction with your breath. Last round here. After your exhale breath, let your pelvis release back to neutral. And then walk your heels in just a little bit closer to you, setting up for a bridge pose variation. Arms can stay by your sides. Press down into your feet. Lift your hips up just a little bit, like a halfway lift. We're not going to tuck the shoulders under on this one. Typically we do, but here we're going to work predominantly with the hips. So start to lower your pelvis down toward the floor. And right when you feel your buns or the back of your pelvis brush the ground, squeeze, engage your glutes and shoot your hips back up toward the ceiling. And then repeat, lower down, right when you feel your hips brush the floor, squeeze, lift, engage the back of the body. So you can do this at your own pacing. We'll continue for another 30 seconds or so. I find if I go faster, it's a little more fiery, but feel free to go controlled, feel free to move with your breath, but really squeeze the glutes. You might feel your hamstrings click on as well, maybe even your calf muscles. And after this next breath, you can release, lower your hips down. Separate your feet as wide as your mat and let your knees knock together and just take a couple breaths. Your next move is to roll over onto your belly. Stack your hands and rest your head on the backs of your hands. And make sure that you can point your toes. So if you're close to a wall, make sure you're far enough away from the wall that you can have the tops of your feet on the floor. So let's begin with the chest. Press your pelvis down into the floor. Press your hands, arms down into the floor and lift up through your head, your chin, your chest. Maybe you feel your upper back muscles engage or even your lower back muscles engage. Breathe here. And release. Rest your head on your hands. Second set. Press down through your pelvis and your legs. Lift up through your head, your chin, your chest. I call this a Sphinx Pose variation. Now, spread your right toes and lift your right leg up off the floor. So straight right leg to start. Take the back of your head towards your heel. Feel your back body click on. Then start to slowly, and I emphasize slowly, bend your right knee, contract your hamstrings, and squeeze your right heel in towards the back of your head. Head back, heel in. Re-extend the right leg and release. Rest your head on your hands and pause. And again, pelvis down, feet down, come up, head, chin, chest, Sphinx Pose variation. Spread your left toes, lift your left leg up off the floor. Straight left leg to start. Take your head back and your heel up. Then slowly begin to bend the left knee, contracting the hamstrings to squeeze your heel in towards the back of your head. Squeeze in, don't hold your breath. And re-extend the left leg, lower down. This time we'll take the arms by the sides, take your right ear towards the floor and rest. Let's keep going, belly down, back bend. Bring your hands now underneath your shoulders. Point your elbows up toward the ceiling and squeeze your elbows together behind you. Then press your pelvis down, feet down, come up, head, chin, chest, Bhujangasana, the Cobra Pose. All right, squeeze your shoulder blades together, spread your collarbones, and then lift your right hand and squeeze your right shoulder blade more towards your spine. Activate your upper right back. Right hand down, lift your left hand up. Squeeze your left elbow and shoulder blade in towards your spine. Activate the left side. Keep your left hand up, lift your right hand up as well. Squeeze both shoulder blades towards your spine. And release. Rest your forehead on the mat. Pause. Take your hands out wider than your mat and come up to your fingertips. Point your elbows up to the ceiling. Press your pelvis down, legs down. Come up, head, chin, chest. The Makarasana, the Crocodile Pose. Same scoop here. Lift your right hand up. Squeeze your right elbow, shoulder blade more towards your spine. Change. Right fingertips down. Lift your left fingertips up. Squeeze your left elbow, shoulder blade more towards your spine. Keep your left hand up, lift your right hand as well. Pull your elbows together behind you. And release, arms by your sides, left ear to the mat. Rest, pause, breathe. Last setup here. Bring your forehead to the mat. Keep your arms down by your sides, but turn your palms to face your body. Sharpen your arms and your legs. And just lift your arms up toward the ceiling. Slice the pinky side edge of your hands up. Squeeze your shoulder blades. Pull your hands toward one another behind you. And release. Arms down, pause. Then once more, turn your palms in, sharpen your arms and your legs. This time, exhale all the way to empty. And on an inhale breath, lift everything up, legs up, arms up, head up. Draw the pinky side edge of your arms up, spread your toes, squeeze your glutes. Then lift your chest. Breathe. And release down. When you feel ready, take your hands under your shoulders, curl your toes under, press yourself up through your hands and your knees. I'm going to crawl around to face the other side. Take your hands as wide as your mat. Walk your knees a little bit behind your hips and then curl your toes under. Lift your knees up, hips up, and press back, downward facing dog. This is your first dog. Today, you might want to bend one knee at a time, shake your head yes and no, make some warm-up movements. And then make sure you have a nice wide spread through your fingers. Push your hands down and forward and draw your hips back and up. So think long front of spine. Squeeze your thighs firm. Couple deep full breaths here. Then look forward. Exhale all your breath out. And on no breath, step your right foot between your hands. It might take a step to get there. You're going to bend your left knee and hover it just above your mat. With your left knee bent, squeeze your left glute. Interlace your hands behind your head and come up, bent knee high lunge. So again, the left knee is hovering just above the floor. It's going to really make your back leg work. Squeeze those left glutes, squeeze your quads, sit low in the right thigh, and push your head back into your hands to spread your elbows. Release, touch your hands down. Straighten your back leg. Exhale all the way to empty. And without scraping your mat, step your right leg back, downward facing dog. Second side. Inhale to look forward. Exhale all the way to empty. Step your left foot between your hands. Bend your back knee to hover just above the floor. With your right knee bent here, squeeze your right glutes and quads and hamstrings. Make the whole leg work. Then change your interlacing to your other clasp behind your head and come up. Bent knee high lunge, left side. Make that back leg work. Squeeze the glutes, firm the quads, and drop your left thigh low. Push your head into your hands, spread your elbows wide. Release the touchdown. Exhale to empty. Don't scrape. Step back. Downward facing dog. Take your hands wide, fingers wide, and push your mat away as you pull your kneecaps to your sides. Once again, look forward. Exhale all your breath out. Step your right foot between your hands. This time the back leg stays straight, so squeeze out through your left glutes, push out through the heel, sweep your arms up, high lunge. All right, strong back leg action is the power in your pose. Drop your right thigh low, pull your navel to your spine, and then reach up through your fingertips. Lift up through your chest. Release the touchdown. Exhale to empty. Quietly step back. Dog pose. Inhale to look forward. Exhale to empty. Step your left foot between your hands. Super strong back leg. Sweep your arms up. Bhujangasana, high lunge. Squeeze left glutes, push out through the right heel. I said left, I meant right. Push out through the right heel, drop your left thigh low, and lift your arms, lift your chest. Breathe. Release the touchdown. Exhale all your breath out. And step your left leg back. Downward facing dog. Take a full breath. Take 2 full breaths. Let's lower down to the knees. So we're going to do a couple of knee down lunges. And if you have sensitive knees, especially if you have hardwood floors, you might want to pad your knees with a blanket. So you'll come onto your shins with your hips right over your knees. We'll step the right foot forward. So for starters, you have 2 90-degree angles in your knees, essentially. Your left hip stayed over your left knee, your right knee's over your right heel. Untuck your back toes and start to press the top of your left foot down into the floor. So pushing the top of the foot down, you'll feel your left leg muscularize. Take your hands to your hips. We're gonna move back into that pelvic rocking action. So as you inhale, tip your pubic bone away from your face and arch your low back into a back bend. So you stick your buns out behind you. And then as you exhale, you're gonna scoop your tailbone under, pubic bone towards your face, push the top of your left foot down into the floor. Surprisingly challenging to keep your balance. Inhale, tip your pelvis forward. Exhale, tuck pubic bone to the face. When you do that second action, you might feel the top of your quad, the front of your hip really open up and spread. Let's do one more time. Inhale, anterior tilt the pelvis, so tip it forward. Exhale, posterior tilt. Now I want you to keep the posterior tilt. Interlace your hands behind you. Push the top of your left foot down into the floor. Keep those actions and slowly begin to sink into a lower lunge. So I'm like pushing, left foot down into the floor, scooping, pubic bone to the face. Draw your belly back. When you're as low as you're gonna get, stretch your knuckles back. Squeeze the heels of your hands toward one another. All right, come on out. Let's change to the other side. Step your right knee back. Step your left foot forward. Again, we start with 2 90-degree angles. Untuck your right toes. Push the top of your right foot down into the floor to muscularize your right leg. Hands to your hips. When you're ready, inhale, tip your pubic bone away from your face. Arch into your low spine to create a really dramatic back bend in your low back. And then as you exhale, pubic bone toward the face, push the top of your right foot down into the floor and really scoop your tailbone in like you're trying to get your bottom of your tailbone to peek up at your navel. 2 more times. Inhale to anterior tilt. Exhale to posterior tilt. Again, reminder on the 3rd round, as you exhale and scoop, I want you to hold that. Change your interlacing to your non-dominant clasp behind you. Push the top of your right foot down and then go slow. Try to stay really integrated, muscularly speaking, as you sink now into a deeper lunge. Your left knee will come forward of your left toes. That's okay. Push the top of your right foot down. Pull your belly back, scoop pubic bone toward the face, and then stretch your knuckles back. Squeeze your arms straight. Release, come on out. Whew, let's come up to stand. If you've got a blanket down, you can fold it up and set it out of the way. Come to stand in the middle of your mat. Separate your feet to hip distance. We take a moment just to gather along the center line in our neutral standing pose, Tadasana. Take a look at your feet. Make sure all 10 of your toes point straight ahead. And then drive your heels down, stand up tall, and stack your head right over your spine. From here, shift your weight over into your left leg and step your right toes back and curl them under like a kickstand. Sharpen your arms down by your side so you find those blade arms again. Without leaning forward, lift your right leg up and spread your right toes. Then slice your arms back. So the arms go back, the right leg goes back, lift your chest, breathe. I call this one-legged standing Shalabhasana. Release. Right foot down, shift right over to the right side. Step your left toes back, sharpen your arms, stand up tall. Without leaning forward, lift the left leg up, spread your left toe. Then sweep your arms back. Slice your arms back in space. Firm your left glutes to lift your left leg higher and lift your chest. Breathe. And release. Left leg down. Pause in the center Tadasana. This is again regrouping, recentering. Feel your feet underneath you. And stand up tall. Couple deep breaths. Let's stand and balance again. Shift to the left. Step your right toes back like a kickstand. Sharpen your arm, lift your chest. Float your right leg up. Sweep your arms back. Now, just as we did when we were belly down, you're gonna start to contract your hamstrings on the right side to bend your knee and squeeze your heel in, but go slow, don't be in a rush. Squeeze your heel in towards the back of your pelvis and take your arms back more. Take your head back. Re-extend and release. Shift to the right, step your left toes back. Sharp arms by your side. Float your left leg up. Sweep your arms back. Then go slow. Start to squeeze your left hamstrings. Pull your left heel in. Keep that strong contraction. Take your arms back more and take your head back. Firm up through the back of your body as you balance. Release, left leg down. Pause in the center. Drop your tongue down into the base of your mouth. Breathe with ease. All right, so from here, we're gonna move into one more knee down lunge. So I'm gonna, again, pad my mat with my blanket and have your 2 blocks, if you have them, have your 2 blocks at the ready at the top outer corners of your mat. Find your downward facing dog. Take your hands as wide as your mat, spread your fingers. So if Tadasana is our standing neutral pose, downward dog is our reset neutral pose for being on the hands and knees, being in lunges. Take another breath. Then inhale to look forward. Exhale all the way to empty. And step your right foot between your hands. Scoot your left foot back just a little bit and lower your left knee down. So you want a nice long space between your 2 thighs. Now here, I'm gonna take my hands onto my blocks right underneath my shoulders. If you don't have blocks, you can come up to your fingertips. Untuck your left toes. So again, we'll find that muscular action by pushing the top of the left foot down into the floor. Firm your left glute and push your arms straight to lift your chest. Draw your belly back. Really stabilize in your legs. And when you're ready, you're going to sweep your arms back like Shalabhasana. So my arms are about shoulder distance, palms face one another, slice your arms up, stay low in your lunge, lift through your chest. Release. Set your blocks to the side, curl the back toes under, pick the back knee up, and step back. Downward facing dog. Take a reset breath in the center. Then inhale to look forward. Exhale all the way to empty. Step your left foot between your hands. Scoot your right foot back a little bit, lower your right knee down, and grab your blocks. Again, you can come up to your fingertips if you don't have blocks. Untuck your right toes. So point your right foot. Push the top of your right foot down into the floor. Squeeze your right glutes and press your arms straight. Draw your navel to your spine. And when you feel ready, pick your hands up, sweep your arms back like Shalabhasana. Really stable in the legs, navel to spine. Lift your chest. Breathe. And release. Come on down. Curl the right toes under. Move your blocks out of the way. Plant hands. Step back. Downward facing dog. Lower down to your knees. You can fold up your blanket, set it out of the way, and now grab your strap and come to lie on your back. Have your knees bent. Take a moment to regroup in this new orientation to gravity. Then draw your heels in close. So once more, setting up for the bridge pose. A good rule of thumb is if your middle finger can just like brush your heels, you're in pretty good shape. Grab the sides of your mat with your hands. So literally hold on to your mat, press down into your feet, lift your hips up a little bit. And this time we're going to tuck the shoulder blades together underneath us. Then without lifting your hips up more, push down through your feet, squeeze your glutes, hamstrings, lift your hips up. Tuck your shoulder blades any amount more together. You can stay just like this, or if you have a little more range of motion, interlace your hands underneath you. Either way, push your outer arm down into the floor, fire up your buns, and take 5 full breaths. After your 5th breath, you can release the clasp of your hands, lower your hips down, untuck your shoulders, and rest. Our next pose is a variation of the bridge pose. So I want to give you 2 options. Option 1 is just to repeat bridge pose. So you'd curl your hands around the mat, lift your hips up, tuck shoulder blades, and proceed from there. If you can, the next setup is to walk your feet in closer and grab the fronts of your ankles. So I sometimes have to lift my legs up to do that. Grab your ankles and then bring your heels back to the floor. If you're like really close but not quite there and your strap would help, you could take your strap around the fronts of your ankles, and then you've got elongated arms that way. Okay, so either way, we're bridging and potentially grabbing the fronts of the ankles, which is a variation of bridge pose called Tadasana. Here we go. Press your heels down, lift your hips up a little bit, tuck your shoulder blades together underneath you. Possibly you're grabbing the fronts of your ankles, possibly you're gripping onto your mat. Press down through your feet, squeeze your buns, lift your hips up again, tuck your shoulder blades underneath you. Once you're in the fullest expression of your pose, take 5 full breaths. After your 5th breath, once again, lower down, untuck your shoulder blades. If you walk your feet in really close, you can walk them out a little bit. And let's take the feet wide, let your knees knock together, pause and rest. Let's do one more strong pose. Flip over onto your belly. Take your arms down by your sides and bend your knees. Reach back one hand at a time to catch the top of your foot or ankle. All right, so press your pelvis down, spread your toes. Squeeze your shoulder blades together so your shoulders lift up off the floor. Exhale all your breath out. On an inhale breath, kick your feet back to lift your chest up. Squeeze through the back of your body. Kick, kick, kick. If it's in the cards for you, you can lift your knees up off the floor. Squeeze your buns, reach up through your toe tips, and pull your shoulder blades more together. When you need to release, carefully come down, extend your legs, take your right ear to the floor. You can shimmy your hips a little bit side to side. And then when you're ready, slide your hands under your shoulders, press yourself up through hands and your knees. And let's just grab one block. And if you like a blanket for your Shavasana, you might have your blanket close so that you can use it in support of your final rest. Okay, so come back to lying position. Set your block off to the middle left side of your mat. And then we'll take the left leg long, draw the right knee in. With your left hand on your right knee, sweep your knee over to the right, to the left, excuse me, and land it on your block. You could go on the flattest setting, middle setting, tallest setting, however much support you need. And then you're gonna sweep your right arm open to the right. So just taking a moment to release all that strong work in the spine and the back of the body. Last breath here. And then we'll change, come back to the center, bend your knees, reset your pelvis, set your block over to the right side. And then you'll draw the right leg long, left knee in. Use your right hand to guide the left knee over to the right and land your left knee on your block. So I should have said this on the first side. If you don't have a block, you could like make a fist underneath your right knee to bring the floor up to you. You could also hook your foot behind your knee and just let your knee hover in space. Then we sweep the left arm open to the left and settle in. Like we talked about on the very first twist, the second side is, I find it personally more challenging to move into. You got to give it a couple breaths to release the deep twist from the previous side. Let's take one more breath. And then come back through the center, bend your knees, reset your pelvis. And then from here, you can draw both knees into your chest, wrap your arms around your shins. You can hold opposite, you would just hold your shins, you could hold opposite wrists, or you could hold opposite elbows and really squeeze the knees in. You might feel nice to rock and roll a little bit side to side. Maybe even widen your knees, more like hip distance or as wide as your rib cage. And then your last move here is Shavasana. So you can lower your feet back to the mat and just stretch your legs out long, or as I mentioned, if you like a little support in your Shavasana, I like to put just a simple fold under my thighs, especially after back bends. It's a really nice way to remind your lumbar spine to move out of back bending, and maybe even it goes a little bit in the opposite direction here to neutralize that effect of several back bends throughout practice. Take your arms by your sides, turn your palms to face the ceiling. You might do the smallest of tucks in your shoulder blades so that your collarbones spread nice and wide. And then you worked really hard, so you deserve a rest. Drop, settle, and release as completely as you can. Begin to feel your breath coming in and out. Take the head side to side a time or two. Release your head and neck. Make some other small awakening movements in your hands and feet, ankles and wrists. Then when you feel ready, you can bend your knees and roll over through either side and slip your bottom arm under your head like a pillow. You're going to use the top arm for support as you press yourself up. And we'll end as we begin. So prop your hips up onto something, a blanket, a block. Rest your hands on your thighs. Close your eyes. And just as we did at the beginning, be observant, feel, sense globally how this practice landed in your body, in your breath, in your nervous system. My goal always for you is that you feel in some aspects better at the end of practice than when we began. Let's meet our hands together and we'll close practice with a bow. Thank you for practice.